Hello, welcome to our snazzy new Pink and Live shows, which you had a little taste of last week. We just thought we'd jump in for a quick Facebook/YouTube/Twitter live video. Some big news today: 1,000 season ticket holders going to be at Carrow Road on Saturday, which is very exciting. A step back towards normality, the very first step, perhaps, but a bit of a coup for Norwich City, it seems. Joined here by Connor and Chris. And just before we started talking, Chris, you seemed like you were reasonably impressed by Norwich managing to be one of the first Championship clubs.
I am. I'm not easily impressed. Certainly not by football clubs all the time. But I think, given that the EFL said, was it 10 a.m. That you can have, be one of the test teams, as it were. They've then had a ballot open by 3 o'clock today, Wednesday, and
I think Tuesday, wasn't it? The 10 a.m. was yesterday.
Yeah. That's sort of what I meant, actually. Yeah. But to have it all ready to rock and roll this afternoon for a game that's at the weekend, I think is commendable. I would say that, knowing what happens in the background, or a bit of what happens in the background at Carrow Road at times, they would have had plan A, B, C and D, for 1,000 fans, 5,000, whatever. They would have been prepared. And I think to confidently go ahead and say, right, this is what we're doing, it proves that they were fully ready for a decision on what they could do, and this is what they're doing. I'm impressed. Like I say, not easily impressed, but I'm impressed with this, and to be honest, really pleased, because I think it's a good signal in really difficult times, that there is a preparedness to take what's a pretty big step.
Yeah, well, as we record, the sort of context to all of this was that the EFL statement dropped this lunchtime, and then very swiftly Luton followed on and said, well, hang on, you've not given us enough notice here. We're dropping out. We haven't got time to get this sorted. And as the only other Championship team at the moment is supposed to be Borough, they host Bournemouth on Saturday, 3 o'clock kickoff as well. But as of yet, they haven't actually confirmed that they're going to be able to do it either. So as we record at the moment, there is a realistic possibility that Norwich City are the first and only Championship club to host fans this weekend. Now, given that that Norfolk in general has compared very favourably in terms of the COVID-19 transmission rate, and thankfully in the death rate. So of course, it's been a very grim situation nationally. But Norfolk, on the whole, other than the scares or the sort of slight outbreaks recently, which seem to have been contained, it sort of fits nicely that a Norwich game will be able to welcome back fans first. But Connor, this following on from what Chris was saying, is because the club had really laid that groundwork in the initial hope of 8,000 fans, wasn't it?
Yeah, and you've got to give credit to them for that, I think, because as Luton showed, it's perhaps easy to have this sort of sprung upon you and you don't respond accordingly. So you have to credit all of the people who would have been involved in the planning and the devising of a plan, and in terms of the conversations with the safety guys as well. And that was ongoing even when I went to speak to Ben Kensel last month now, when he confirmed they would look to hold test events. So it's a testament to them really, and the work they've done over this summer, and the fact they have been really proactive. And I guess that's why they're probably so delighted that this is the case, because after so much hard work and having the sort of setbacks that we had last week in terms of the government saying that actually they'd have to review the pilots and that they'd have to review whether supporters could return on October the 1st. And it's great news for them. And hopefully now it can get delivered safely. Norwich are going to be one of the clubs now that the government looks at and that other football clubs look at in terms of implementing this correctly. And hopefully they can do it in the correct way, and we can then start talking about the phased return of more supporters to stadiums, because ultimately that's where everyone wants to get to. And it's obviously not ideal, and it's never going to be ideal until Carrow Road can be full again. But in terms of first steps on what I fear could be a very long road, then it's a positive one at that, and I think that's the way it has to be perceived. It's a really important step back to where we all want to be.
Yeah, it is a first step, and everybody who is fortunate enough to be there and comfortable enough to be there on Saturday, I think they've got a responsibility to the sort of wider Norwich City community as well to make sure that they do as they're supposed to, follow all the regulations. There is sort of some quite in-depth regulations which have been released on the club's website. I will just point out at this point, you've got until 5 p.m. tomorrow to enter the ballot. That's all on the club's official website, of course, with the full explanation of it. But if you want to go on Saturday, you need to get in there quickly, and then it's a random ballot from there. Also confirmed by the club that if you are lucky enough to be within this first 1,000, you'll then be sort of counted out for the next few games, because they desperately want to share this around as much of that support base as they can. 22,000 season ticket holders. I think anybody of a reasonable mind would acknowledge that the club have got a real job on their hands here. I should also just say, before I come back to Chris and Connor, that you should be able to comment whether you're watching us on Facebook, YouTube or Twitter. Hopefully they will all come through to us on this new bit of kit. I've got a few here, so I'll just go through them quickly. Maureen and John White say, great news that 1,000 fans allowed in for the Preston game. Hope all goes well, both on and off the field. Come on, you Yellows. Yeah, it'd be nice to hear some songs along those lines, won't it? Johnny says, great news about the fans getting to return. Also, Dave, your throw cushion looks like a fig. I'm going to have words with the girlfriend. Going to have to work on the back.
Fig makers of the world, I'd say, or fig growers of the world.
I'm guessing that means the pink, the purpley one, does it? But I'm going to say Purple Quality Street is what it's reminding me of. The mighty Bjorn, with the random selection system for fans, I must say I'm worried about the atmosphere, but I guess that's the only fair way to do things. Yeah, as I was just saying, it's difficult for the club to get this right, but at the moment it's just about getting it done safely in as much of a straightforward way as possible. Shaney _NCFC, so because Luton cancelled, Norwich could have easily cancelled, but didn't do. Well done to the club. And then says, so to confirm, only the South Stand will be open for the game. Connor, I think that's right, isn't it? Just the South Stand, although looking at the sort of map on the club's website, which will be going out to fans, there's various different entry points, and people are being encouraged to enter sort of 90 minutes before, aren't they? Or at least 90 minutes before.
Yeah, exactly. And this all goes into what we were talking about in terms of the planning. I mean, I can get up that now in terms of on my screen. You guys won't be able to see it, but yeah, 4 entrances essentially in all 4 corners of the ground: the red, a green, a yellow, and a blue one. And yeah, it will be the South Stands that's open. So season tickets holders will have to compromise if they don't usually sit in there. But as is the situation, and I think those fans who do get to go probably need to see it as a really fantastic opportunity to go and watch some live sport again, and to go and watch some live football again, because obviously it's been since late February since we've had a game at Carrow Road, so it's going to be excellent. And I know the comment earlier on about atmosphere, but for me that probably isn't the most important aspect this weekend. It's about getting fans back in the building and making sure that it's all done in a way that is safe and managed correctly, because ultimately, as positive as this is, fans coming back into ground, it needs to be done correctly so we can then move on to the next phase of it and prove that can be done in a successful way. And there was Cambridge United, didn't they? They had the first one a week or so ago, and that seems to have worked pretty well. So hopefully the Norwich one can follow suit. But yeah, those plans do extend to, in terms of controlling the stand that fans are in terms of how they filter out. So if they want to go and buy food, etc. So it's fairly comprehensive, and it's really easy to understand for those supporters who do get to go. So yeah, you can tell that they've worked really hard on this, and it's a testament, as we've been saying really since the show started, to the people who have put in so much hard work across the summer. And we know that there's been a lot of that, and there's been a lot of focus on this. So they must be absolutely delighted that they've got to a stage now after the knockback they had last week, where fans are going to come in and they're going to come in very safely, and they're going to come into a set of protocol that to me looks very comprehensive and very meticulously devised. So fingers crossed it all works smoothly, and we can get some more fans in soon.
Kevin Baldwin says Connor does have a nice set of wardrobe doors.
Yeah, they're not bad. They're not bad. Not particularly. I mean, the rest of my walls are yellow, so it's pretty bland. But I'll take it.
That's the shorts version, mate. The white shorts. Incidentally, with these 4 entrances, who on earth is going to want to go through the blue entrance?
The people who like the away kit.
Yeah, quite.
And that answers my question. No, I didn't say that. I do like, by the way, Dave, that there's a very good supporter code of conduct. Now, I know you sit in the press box, you chaps, but for people like myself who are used to, but don't anymore, used to sit in the south stand and watch their games, if you're in a seated area when moving past other supporters, please avoid face-to-face contact. Well, I've seen that happen a lot during normal circumstances. Avoid hugs, high fives, and any close contact with people who are not within your social bubble. Now, if Norwich go and stick a couple past Preston, you really have got to contain yourself, because goals at Carrow Road have been hard to come by. But, you're going to have to stick a bit of in-house or in-bubble celebrating on that.
Yeah, if you're in your group of 6, then you're all right, aren't you? But we'll just have to tell Paddy, no hugs. Just sorry, Pat.
I have often been to games where I've befriended people accidentally because the team I've been watching has scored, and the guy behind you will grab you, and you're friends for life then. But obviously, this can't happen. It does. It can't happen in the south stand. But I think just going back to the original, the general emotion of it is it's just good to be back, despite. There is, by the way, I think there had been a lot of suggestions that you wouldn't be able to cheer and applaud and shout and what have you, but I don't see any restriction on that. I guess if you're in the bubbles and you're in the south stand and there's 1,000 of you, then it's going to be a place where you can shout and scream or whatever you want to do, and do it safely. If you were a little bit closer, maybe not.
Okay, I'm afraid I've just been weighing up whether to read this comment in my mind while you're talking there, Chris. But
it's not about your cushions, is it, Dave?
No, it's not. Unfortunately, somebody called Michael Ralph has decided to put a very snarky comment saying, "Oh, I do miss Michael Bailey." Sigh. So,
do you? See you, Michael.
Michael, by all means, go and join one of Michael Bailey's Facebook lives. But we still get on with Michael absolutely fine. I don't understand why some people want to try and sort of drive some kind of wedge there. Michael decided to move on to a new challenge. I don't really see what the point is of going back to these things. Thanks very much for your comment. Colin Hildreth, Norwich showing that they are on the front foot again and trying to put supporters first. Stephen Cott's brilliant news and great that we have been one of the selected clubs. Come on, you yellows. Jet 1961, we always knew that NCFC are well run. This proves that. Well done to all involved on the ball, City. Chris, if I come back to you on that, I guess this probably shows that the club have learned their lessons in particularly that memberships, of course. We don't want to go over that old ground too much, but they were accused of not consulting with fans enough at that point, and they quite clearly didn't. Ben Kensel has been open about that, but on this one, they've shown that they've been really hot, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. I'm not part of any groups that would be invited into chats with the hierarchy at Carrow Road, but I know a few people who are. And I think there's been an awful lot of consultation going on this and other things which haven't come out yet and haven't been made public about other projects. There is a lot of involvement with supporters from Norwich City nowadays. And from what people tell me about various other projects, they listen to as well. It's no good. I think in days gone by, we've probably had supporters groups that are listened to and then their comments have been ignored. But I think now supporters are very much a part of what Norwich City do. I'm not trying to blow wind up Norwich City, but they're doing a pretty good job now. And they're learning from the lessons. You mentioned the membership thing. That was a hard one to learn from, but, move on. You learn. We all make mistakes. You move on. And to see that a club is learning from it is refreshing. They won't get everything right, but hopefully the next time we'll see something that says, like today, good work, that, admire that. So, I think it's a different football club nowadays.
Okay, and Connor, if I come to you after this comment, Johnny says, any idea how clubs are surviving the drop in income from tickets currently? Can clubs survive like this for long? I mean, you sat down with Ben Kensel and spoke about these sort of things not too long ago, did you? And obviously Norwich are going to lose money like all clubs by not having the full capacities into grounds. And sadly today we've seen Macclesfield Town wound up, haven't we? There's going to be going to be some real sad stories throughout the football pyramid the longer this continues. But in terms of what Ben was saying about the finances, Norwich are in a stable place, but obviously it's not a comfortable place.
Yeah, I think when we spoke to him, they were planning for a 12 million sort of deficit in terms of their revenue, obviously because of fans not being able to go to games, and obviously that increases for the longer that goes on. But in reality, with the 3 years of parachute payments, it's not a hole that it needs to be desperately filled, and equally it won't all be filled by player sales either. So just because there's this hole that's formed, they will look to be creative with the parachute payments, for example, and explore other avenues as well as player trading, not solely player trading. So that, for example, that £15 million reported fee that they got for Jamal Lewis won't go all into sort of plugging that hole, so to speak. They've got a long-term plan for doing that. And you mentioned the finances. Norwich are in a much healthier position than some clubs. I mean, Bristol Rovers are apparently 50% down in terms of where they were last year. And there have actually been some clubs lower down the pyramid who haven't taken on test events because it will leave them basically with less money than having an empty stadium. It will cost more for them to facilitate than to play behind closed doors, which is a really sad situation to be in. So when you look at it like that, because of the financial environment at Norwich and because of what they've done financially, they're in a position to be able to press on with an event like this. And again, that's a testament to how they've managed and controlled their finances, I guess. But yeah, for Norwich, it's at the moment fairly stable, but of course the longer it goes on, and the longer it goes on for any football club, the worse it's going to get. And we've seen Macclesfield fall to that, and we certainly hope that those clubs who are on the brink, as it seems to be a few are, Southend, for example, that they manage to keep their heads above water, and hopefully with some increased help from the EFL as well, you would hope. But that's why Norwich have been able to press on with this, because of the financial situation they're in, and why perhaps other clubs in the Championship and League One and League Two have decided not to. But I think it's obviously 2 in the Championship after Luton dropped out, and then there's 4 in League One and 3 in League Two. So hopefully they all work successfully, and they all sort of pave the way for events with more spectators to be held in the sort of near future, because that's what we want to see. We want to see these stadiums as full as possible, as quick as possible. But of course, underpinning all of that has to be the safety and the health element of it, and that has to take priority. So football clubs are fully understanding of that, and hopefully with success we can sort of get back to the October timeline that was discussed, as I think the government have held more discussions about today. So it's looking a lot more positive than it was a week ago in terms of fans return, and hopefully we can get to a stage where it's a few thousand, and you can help those clubs pick up some income and some revenue along the way to keep themselves afloat.
Yeah, quite. You would have thought that the Norwich October home games against Derby, Birmingham and Wycombe, that we can probably plan there's going to be 1,000 at least at those games, but clearly we don't know at this point. And this is always a movable feast, isn't it? We're all, the Football League, Norwich, the whole of football are completely dependent on what the government tell them. And if there is a second wave, a second spike, that thing that we're all sort of fearing and trying to be careful of, then clearly that will have an impact on what happens going forward with the football. Right, so a few more comments. Harry Jekyll, great news for the fans to be back at Carrow Road. Ray Wiley, those that are not selected and watch I Follow, do you get sent a code or do you have to apply? I see what you mean. So if you want to watch the live stream, the club put out all the details of how to get the access to the live stream on their website yesterday. So I guess if you don't get if you're not successful in the ballot, then that will all still apply, and you'll be able to get your stream as it were. And the club had already confirmed details about rebates, hadn't they? I mean, that's not been discussed yet because clearly this is a fast-moving situation, but they had said fans who aren't able to or who choose not to go to game will still be eligible for their rebates moving forward. But again, that's sort of an evolving situation. Shane asked again, although once you're in your seat, you are allowed to take off your mask. Can you confirm? Now, while you were talking there, Connor, I was just flicking through and I don't think it explicitly says that. I think you definitely have to have a mask with you. And from what we've seen, like at the Brighton friendly, is that when you're moving around, you certainly need it on. But when you're sat down, maybe you don't. But I don't, unless either of you have seen otherwise. I haven't seen it say anywhere specifically that you have to wear a mask.
No, it's quite vague, isn't it? I think it says, I can read from it now. It basically says that, if you bear with me, essentially that, where was it?
Please note that you may be required to wear a face covering and should bring one with you, which doesn't say that you should have one. But I've got to be honest with you, anybody who's going out in public at the moment, certainly where there are other people around, should have a face mask on. If you've got to go
in the press box, we have all through through these games since Project Restart, we've had to wear.
I'll wear one in bed.
So.
No, in all seriousness, I would suggest that if you're going to a football match in the South Stand, there are 1,000 people, you should be wearing a face mask, at least when you're going in and going to your seat. When you're in your own bubble, are there going to be any COVID marshals there, do we think? Norwich is not going to have any COVID marshals, is it, as a city? So
no. Well, I guess there'll be stewards as normal, won't there? This is going to be the sort of interesting thing we're going to be looking out for, isn't it? But yeah, personally, I'll continue to wear my mask for the time being, and I would advise you if you're going to be wearing one as well, because particularly at the start of this, we don't know if this will be successful fully, do we? So yeah, I would encourage a mask. Michael Bailey's beard says, "I love you guys," with a little kiss on the end, which is lovely. Andy Robinson, where do you get a pie at half time? Very important.
Yeah, it is a hugely important thing, and I can't work out whether access to the amenities within the stadium, such as toilets, food and drinks outlets or concessions, may have changed. So please plan accordingly. Now, there are certain people among the supportage of this great sport that do recce before kickoff, before that whistle goes, to make sure we know where the loos are and where you can get a drink and a pint, which is all very well if they're open. So I don't know.
No card or checks as well. So there is going to be a need to pay for stuff. So presumably there will be bars. There are pubs and restaurants open, aren't there? So you would expect
you can always slip a Ginsters in your back pocket and just don't sit down.
Or at least take it out before you do.
Enjoy them cold, not hot.
Just a couple more comments, and then just want to quickly talk about something else before we finish. We're just keeping this a reasonably brief one. Shane, again, what will be interesting is, will the players celebrate in front of the South Stand when they score? You'd like to think so, although obviously they need to keep that vital meter in.
After they've celebrated in front of Paul Chesterton and his camera.
Right down the lens, PC will be happy.
Yeah.
Mark Davis with a nice comment here. Norwich City is well served by you Archant boys, the Pinken, Michael Bailey, PNC, and all the other content providers I follow. As a fan now living in deepest Bolton, I value all for news and opinion. Good man, Mark.
Nice, yeah.
For some reason, some people seem to like to sort of try and create some sort of rivalry, but it's just not there.
Don't worry about it.
Colin Hildreth, if you're making a mask out of a bra, please remember to only use the left cup. Otherwise, you'll look a right blank. You can read the rest of that comment yourself. Just finally, then, we've had a little bit of football news, haven't we, today, Connor, in terms of 2 loan outgoings, not confirmed yet, but Daniel Sinani, Melvin City, going out on loan to Belgium.
Yeah, which I think is probably not a surprise given the size of Norwich City squad, and given maybe perhaps they've recruited those players with a long-term outlook, particularly when you look at where they've come from. Daniel Sinani, top flight in Luxembourg, was always going to be a bit of an unknown quantity and has a lot of options in front of him, and maybe Norwich have retained some players that perhaps they didn't anticipate at the start of the window. So maybe his sort of progression into the first team has been blocked a little bit. And then Melvin City as well, who came from the second tier in France, didn't play too much towards the back end of last season. Fitness-wise, probably isn't where they'd hoped to be, and he's better served at his age going out and getting development, and probably Sinani as well, to be fair, to experience certainly a higher quality of football than perhaps Sinani had last year. City, maybe not, but I think for those two lads, it's going to be really pivotal to go out and get game time, and that's simply not going to happen given Norwich have a squad of 30 plus players as we sit here today. That's simply not sustainable, because you can have players sitting around who aren't playing, and that's not good for the togetherness, for the squad harmony that we know Daniel Farke likes to have. So it makes sense for those two to go and play some football. Norwich benefit as well, hopefully with their development, and hopefully those two lads come back as better players. So it makes sense. Belgium's a very technical league. That's clearly how Norwich City want to play, and it's clearly a loan that's been set up with a view to them playing the way that Norwich City want to as well. I think, judging from the friendlies, Sinani looked a little bit raw, and City's looked neat and tidy when he's played, but we've only seen him very briefly, so probably difficult to really make judgments on them. Obviously, Daniel Farke's had a longer period to sort of cast his assessments of them, and clearly he feels that they're better suited with a little spell away, which is positive, because Norwich only send players out on loan that they have really high aspirations for. So I think it bodes well for them. And just to finish on the ticket debate, just to bring it to that, I've just seen a tweet that's very useful that I'll read as well, in terms of those season ticket holders that do attend on Saturday. They will not be able to apply for future fixtures that are at a reduced capacity until all other season ticket holders have had the opportunity to attend a fixture. So basically, if you don't attend this game, you will basically be further in line than the ones who have. So I think that's an important point to make as well.
Yeah, and as we finish the video, 25 minutes has flown past very quickly. Middlesbrough still haven't confirmed anything yet about their game, so we'll keep an eye on that. But Sinani and City, I think they were sort of brought in as kind of projects, when they can see there being first team potential there long term. City's only 20. I know Sinani is a little bit older, but like you say there, it's a big step up from Luxembourg. So and the squad is just so huge, isn't it? Talking to Adam Eder after the game at Huddersfield on Saturday, and he included Sinani in sort of the group of strikers when he was asked about competition. He said about Hugill, Pukki and Sinani. So I think they eye him as a striker for the future, because he's had a good goal scoring record, hasn't he? And then, if you look at the wide options, there's Hernandez, Cantwell, Buendia, Dowell, Stevenman and Vrancic can both play out there as well. You've got Josh Martin. There's a lot of options. Lucas Rupp. So, and then with City, similarly, central midfield, they're packed with options there, aren't they? They've got Skip and Sorensen that have come in. They've got Tetty, McLean, again, Vrancic. Tribal and Leitner are still on the books technically, aren't they? So, so it seems to make sense to get those boys out and make sure that they're playing regularly. But let's call it there. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be making these that little bit more regular now that we've got this new bit of kit, and that allows us to go across the various different platforms. Chris and Connor, thank you. And producer Tony, we'll end the feed there if you can.